Alright, what's up y'all? It's Lake 2 here. As you can see by the title of today's video, we have built a team around Garchomp for Pokemon Champions. Now, if you aren't familiar with the type of stuff that they've been on with Garchomp, introducing the Mega Z right here and then the original Garchomp Mega, we have things that are obviously very different in terms of the stat spreads. We have extreme attack power on the original Mega Garchomp with 170 base. They actually drop his speed though by 10 base, and that's where I think a lot of people's disdain with him, if you will, really came from. It just wasn't really a good Mega, and you could even argue that his non-Megas maybe better than him, to be fair. All things considered, and just the fact that you can run your Mega Stone on somebody else. All those things included, you know, you could run Life Orb, Choice Scarf on him, all types of stuff. Scarf Chomp, if you will. But anyway, what they actually have introduced here in Pokemon Champions is going to be Mega Z. Now, this has 151 base speed and 141 special attack. They left his attack the same at the 130, and then obviously, as you can see, his defenses actually in some ways got decreased. So it's 108 HP, 95 defense, and then 85 special D. They actually dropped his defense, and then everything else stays standard. I also don't know if this is really the answer either. You could run things like Draco and Earth Power. I think a really decent set on this guy, if you really were trying to run Mega Garchomp, would be to run things like this, where you run Earth Power and Earthquake. So in your very hyper-focused special attack moves, where you want to hit just one person and not hit your allies as well, you could go for the Earth Powers and then boom, carry Earthquake as well even still. Probably run something like Draco, and then whatever you'd like to do with that final move slot. If you want it to be a physical dragon move as well, you could do that. If you want Rock Slide to cover, you know, for flying types and stuff like that, you could do that too. But I'll talk about why we actually aren't concerned about flying types in this video a little bit later. What I'm going to be doing instead is going to be running standard Garchomp. So here's the team that I've assembled right here. We have, as you can see, Orthworm, Oranguru, Mega Gengar, Bronzong, and Pelipper. Now, I'm not dead set on these final two right here. This is a little bit more of a rough drafty team than some of the videos I've been doing recently, if you guys have been tapping in with the channel. I'm actually a very brand new YouTuber if you guys are new to the channel here. This is my 4th video so far on Pokemon related stuff. But anyway, besides the point, I want to show you the stuff that I cooked up here a little bit. So you're probably wondering, why in the world do we have a Mega Gengar next to Garchomp who only runs Earthquake? Are you not concerned about the idea of hitting your own Gengar? If this is something you're trying to build your team around, obviously he's the only person with the Mega Stone on our squad right now. You could debatably, if you want, run the Garchomp Mega Stone if you'd like to as well, but I think something like Life Orb would be a little bit more threatening here, and I'll explain why in just a second. So, Orthworm is a really cool little guy right here. As you can see, his ability is Earth Eater. It allows you, instead of taking damage to ground moves and being super affected by them, actually allows you to heal from ground moves hitting into you. So, essentially, that's already like a really cool ability that someone like this brings to the table on a team like this that we want to put around Garchomp. But then we got to introduce you to the really cool move that he has too, Shed Tail. This is going to take half your HP whenever you're able to execute your move on the turn, which obviously Orthworm's going to be a little bit later in the turn with only 65 speed. But that's okay. We're okay with that because it's actually going to help us in a way, essentially. So he has really good defense, 145 base. I'm running the nature up on this. You guys, in case you guys aren't aware, when you run a plus nature on something and it already has a high base stat, it's going to see much more value than to run something of a plus nature that has something like 65 base. That's why sometimes you might see me invest more heavily on the EVs, and when Champions comes out, obviously it'll still have a slider mechanic, although it's not going to be called EVs exactly. But investing heavily into the smaller stats like the special D and the HP, but then to still run a plus nature on the defense is what we're trying to do here. But anyway, Shed Tail is going to take half your HP, pass a substitute to someone when your turn is over. So when Orthworm is going to execute this, he's going to be able to pass off that substitute to Garchomp, and it's going to be pretty late in the turn, all things considered, because he's pretty slow. Now, that's not the only thing that we really have in the bag, because I have a little bit of an idea to take people by surprise and really not let them know what's coming a little bit with this team. So I'm a big fan of Mega Gengar. I feel like this is just a disgusting Pokemon out here. To be able to stop people from switching out, to switch into like people that they think would counter the situation better and, you know, have more answers to, stuff like that. To be able to have Shadow Tag is a really cool thing. And it's something that we might see more value out of at different points with this team, but that's not what I'm focused on doing. I'm actually focused on taking that ability and getting it off Gengar in order to, let's show you a little bit of a cool setup, right? So Gengar's gonna be pretty fast. We're going to hit skill swap into our own Orthworm, or later we'll talk about hitting it into our own Oranguru as well. But Into Earthworm. This is where it's going to be really cool. Gengar goes before Earthworm, so he's going to steal his Earth Eater, but then we're not really concerned about his ability because he's leaving the field anyway. And it'll actually come back later in the fight with Earth Eater back. It isn't going to keep, you know, Shadow Tag on him or anything like that. So, again, skill swap, trading abilities with Earthworm, taking his Earth Eater, and then hitting Slow Shed Tail and switching into Garchomp. Now, mind you, we didn't do any damage on turn 1 with that, so it's not something you can do into every team. It's just a cool little gimmick that I wanted to introduce you guys to, and this is more of a rough draft team, like I said, too. It's not something that I'm just like, yo, this is going to break the game. This is the most overpowered team ever. You're going to win every single game with it. It's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to give you guys something cool and fun to play with, and a little bit of an off-meta team. Again, it's the stuff I'm going to be very interested in trying to get creative with, because at the end of the day, what is Pokemon other than trying to get more creative with things? Or if you want to run meta stuff, you can turn to that as well. But anyway, passing that substitute off to Garchomp while also having Earth Eater on Gengar. That's what we're going for. We're trying to make Gengar really bulky right here so he can just stand on the field very consistently. And remind you, once again, that means Gengar is going to be getting healed 25% every turn that we decide to click Earthquake with Garchomp. And with him on a Life Orb as well, just doing absolutely crazy amounts of damage. I would like to run Adamant Nature on this, but when you really like reconsider all that stuff, 102 speed is good, solid, but not exactly like gonna outspeed everything. So we do still want to be pretty fast with this, but I would like to think that with Protect, Swords Dance, Earthquake, and Dragon Claw, this covers for a lot of the 4 move syndrome that Garchomp normally has. Is that like, if you run Earthquake as your only attacking move, you're normally concerned about hitting your teammates. You gotta be very specific with when you hit Protect on everybody. You can't run Protect because then you have to like run something like, I don't know, let's say Stomping Tantrum. And then because Stomping Tantrum is really like the only other good physical ground move that Garchomp gets, it's not gonna be really great as far as the damage dealt. So I think this is really nice that we could run something like Earthquake, not be concerned about that at all. And then because we decide to run Life Orb instead of something like Scarf or Assault Vest or something like that, it allows us to obviously still run things like Protect, Swords Dance, be more versatile with him, be very, very like unpredictable, because the fact that we're going to be very consistently passing him off substitutes and allows him to like, let's say they didn't even get an attack off into him because Earthworm's going to be passing that slow sub off. Really, what we could do next turn at that point is just set up Swords Dance and Protect. We could just Protect with Gengar and then Swords Dance Garchomp. We have a sweeper online now, an absolute sweeper, and then remind you like Mega Gengar being really fast and also featuring into his built-in fairy weakness. So if we look at like Garchomp's things that he's going to struggle with, defensively, as far as things that are super effective into him, ice types are going to be very concerning. So snow teams we'll talk about later. It's kind of what we have Pelipper along for, and you could be very questionable as to why Pelipper instead of Tyranitar. We'll talk about that later. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that it's unfortunate that T-Tar just gets super affected by teammate Garchomp consistently, so we don't really want to put him around that as much. Pelipper is a really good counter weather to shut off that snow, and then also really good value. You know, let's just talk about Pelipper because I feel like it's something that's already on the table here, and it's worth talking about. Something like Tailwind, it's really, you know, worth considering. I would definitely say, like, you know, Garchomp with Tailwind could really come online really, really well. Wide Guard against those snow teams. If they have people that just want to spam double Blizzard, and we know that, we could see it coming. It's like, oh boy, they have Ninetales Alolan and they have Mega Frostlass. I wonder what they're trying to click when a Garchomp is on the field, you know? And to be fair, that's not the easiest thing to guaranteed predict because they could still focus down Garchomp with one specific Blizzard, or not Blizzard, but one specific Ice move rather than to run Blizzard double. But either way, still want it for utility, want it just to, like, you know, service as some potential, and then also Drizzle being able to turn the snow off will still make it so Blizzard is going to be 70% accurate. You don't have, obviously, the benefits of being a snow, you know, with the snow up, where it's going to be boosting the physical defense of your team, which, obviously, against a physical attacker like this can be pretty beneficial. So, Pelipper, that's why I believe he's going to be a pretty decent bring. Not really why we want to talk about that, though. Again, just wanted to talk about Garchomp's weaknesses, and I do think that is one reason I wanted to talk about it right there, is because Pelipper still kind of covers for the ice types pretty decent. The other reason we cover the ice types pretty well is because we're obviously surrounding it with 2 steel types who also don't take any damage to ground moves. So, as far as the team's weakness to ground, you can see there's 3 immunities, one person that's trying to skill swap and take that Earth Eater for themselves and give themselves an immunity. And then we didn't even talk about Oranguru yet, Telepathy. This Pokemon does not take damage from attacks made by its allies. So, when you put Oranguru next to Gengar, this is just disgusting. So let's talk about Oranguru's bag real quick, because I feel like this is something worth, like, you know, kind of chatting about. To finish our thought though, essentially I was just saying Gengar actually services us as like one of the weaknesses Garchomp deals with of the fairy. He deals with that, and then because Garchomp's gonna have a sub up pretty often and he's also pretty fast, I don't think we're really concerned about opposing dragon types that much. But anyway, to move along over to our team explanation a little bit more again, Oranguru. Telepathy, like I said, makes it so you don't take damage from your allies. Instruct. The target immediately uses its last used move. I know you're probably thinking, well, isn't this just Encore? Isn't it just going to make like someone use their move over and over again? What this is actually for is to use on your own Pokemon, and instead of Oranguru using his turn, which granted it will be a little bit slower, once again, only 60 base speed, not exactly perfect in that way, but what it'll do is instead of him using a move, on his move slot instead, it will be another Garchomp, potentially Swords Dance boosted Earthquake. So, if they somehow live the first one, if Oranguru clicks Instruct, as soon as his turn goes off, they're going to have to live another one. So, that's where I really see the value of this. You could even say we don't even need to get the Swords Dance off then if that's the case. We could potentially just click Quake and then boom, click Instruct into Garchomp. I think another way that Oranguru serves us pretty good value as well is going to be Ally Switch is priority, so you and your teammate will swap positions. If there is an Ice type on the field or something that's going to be threatening Garchomp, what we can do is just click Ally Switch. It's going to move Oranguru from the right slot over to the left, and it's going to move Garchomp over from the left slot to the right. And whatever you were trying to direct a move into with Garchomp, it's going to hit Oranguru instead. And then whatever you're trying to hit Oranguru with, it's going to hit Garchomp instead. Mind you, I have Rough Skin on him too, so like moves that weren't really being planned on hitting into, let's say they were thinking they were going to hit a move into Oranguru, and now it's just like a neutral or resisted move instead. Rough Skin could still serve us some value right there as well. But yeah, that definitely is some value that Oranguru is going to provide us with the Ally Switch, protecting Garchomp while he could set up his Swords Dance, stuff like that. Gravity. This is going to be a big one, a really, really big one. And I know it's not something that everybody likes to run on their team. They don't want to have all this setup shenanigans. They don't want to, like, you know, be so dependent on clicking moves that don't do damage for a turn and concerned about playing it slow. I understand the concern, and it's valid, to be fair. I know, like, when people are firing off damage, you know, it could be pretty concerning. But again, I do think we have a lot of different tools to kind of help us set up with this, and it's not such a gimmicky setup because it actually is threatening and pretty valuable. Anyway, Gravity. If there's some Levitate Mon or some, you know, flying type that we're very concerned about, or let's say someone that normally would be very super affected by it if they weren't flying type, like Talonflame, essentially. If we were to make Talonflame able to get hit by ground moves, boom, we're online with that now, big time. Charizard, for instance, boom. Gravity, guess what? Now we don't even need a Rock Slide to cover for our Charizard, you know, boom, he's just dead. He's gone. So it's something I'm really interested in, and then also, as we have already mentioned a lot, you know, surrounding it with a flying type, Levitate, Telepathy, Earth Eater, someone trying to skill swap the Earth Eater, skill swap the Telepathy, skill swap the Levitate, you know, all this stuff included. I feel like we're surrounding a teammate that we're putting a really good team around that we can just be reckless with Garchomp, spam Earthquake over and over and over again. Obviously, if they have Wide Guard, we're going to have to be a little bit more specific. We're going to have to, you know, calm that down a little bit and just hit our Dragon Claws. If they have a Fairy type that we can't hit our Dragon moves into, remind you, we have Gengar to deal with that with a Sludge Bomb. So that's definitely something we wanted to, you know, make sure we had tracked. And that's why I do feel like Gengar is actually a pretty decent ally to put next to Garchomp. And then, again, make him bulky, skill swap, like really good value. I mean, this is insane to be able to put Earth Eater on a Gengar, and now you can just put him next to Garchomp. But I don't want to keep talking about that. We've already talked about it a lot. So anyway, to talk about a little bit more of the kit that we've already gone over with some people though, Helping Hand on Orthworm could be really cool too. I mean, he doesn't really have to do a lot of damage himself. It's just the fact that he's on the field, can be next to that Earthquake, and he's not really like caring about it. If anything, he's like, yes, please Earthquake into me, you know? So it's definitely something that is very intriguing. But if you wanted to do any damage with him, Body Press with this dude would be huge. I mean, obviously we have a ton of defense. You could invest more into defense if you wanted to have a more higher damaging Body Press. But I do want to cover for his lack of special bulk because we need to make sure we get those Shed Tails off properly. If we click this move and we're below 50% HP, it's not going to be good balls. So that's why we have Citrus Berry on him too, just to make absolutely positively sure that we actually have, you know, enough HP to actually send that Shed Tail off. And with his bulk, the way it's set up, I think that should be very capable against most people. We don't always have to lead him. It's just when we think it's going to be possible to do so. So anyway, surround him with the Helping Hand, Protect, just to like, you know, be careful with him, cautious. I don't think there were going to be many better moves. You could run like Iron Defense on him, but I think this guy's job is going to be like switch out with the Shed Tail and like call it a day, and boom, Helping Hand can be cool. So Protect is something you just have on more people off, you know, someone more often than not. But anyway, with Bronzong, let's move on to him real quick. This is going to be our kind of curveball or knuckleball, if you will, a really slow pitch that we're trying to like at least have on the team. And I think this actually has some value once again as well. But if you didn't want to run this and you want to like commit more to the Tailwind tech with Pelipper and run something like, you could even add T-Tar to the team instead of Bronzong if you really like to. But where I see some value with Bronzong is, once again, he has Levitate and then he has Ally Switch, so we can keep doing that whole protect Garchomp, like, you know, keep him safe type beat. And then here's where the interesting kind of aspect of Bronzong comes into play. Again, I'm just trying to add a lot of toolbox for you guys, and you can kind of just choose which of these pieces you want to use for your team. You don't have to run all 6 of them by any means. But if we go with a Trick Room turn 1 while protecting Garchomp, let's say we led both of these guys, right? We have Levitate, we got, you know, Trick Room, we got someone with a pretty heavily invested speed. You're probably thinking, well, I don't know if Trick Room's going to be that great for him, bro. I mean, yeah, if they have Tailwind up, maybe he's going to be slower than some people, and the Trick Room could be useful then. And that is what this is for, is to counter the Tailwind teams. So if they do threaten us with Tailwind, we can instead hit Trick Room on that same turn while protecting Garchomp. Now we're using that Tailwind against them. But what he's actually going to be good for is he will be the last to move on the turn, obviously, which means he'll be the first to move on a turn on the next one. 33 base speed with speed down nature is going to be gnarly, right? I mean, that's just like for sure having some value on a Trick Room. Now, because we set up Trick Room really late, what we can do is he's going to be going first. We're going to speed swap onto our own Garchomp. Now Garchomp has this speed, 91 right here, instead of his freaking whopping, you know, 333. So we're now making Garchomp a Trick Room sweeper as well, which people will never see coming. I mean, we could like even Swords Dance first turn and then also go with the Trick Room. You don't even have to click first turn protect. At that point, we got a real deal sweeper online, bro. And once again, we could hit Helping Hand once that's online. We could hit Ally Switch to protect him more defensively as well. I think this could be a really good off-speed pitch, and in a best of 3 format as well, when you already showed one like little trick that you had of bringing these 4 instead to just bring Bronzong in one of their slots, like maybe Oranguru's for instance. Man, I think that could be really disgusting. The only problem is you only have so many mental herbs that can go around. So, you know, when you have a bunch of people with non-damaging moves, I think it's, you know, pretty nice to run something like mental herb. You can maybe say safety goggles for Bronzong if you'd like to as well. I put Rocky Helmet on. I don't know if that's going to be a great fit, to be fair. I just kind of threw an item on. You could kind of inference to what you think is going to be a good fit. Again, I think safety goggles could be decent as well. You could even run, if they have the berries in the game that cover for their weaknesses. I mean, if you look at Bronzong, he's weak to 3 things: Dark, Ghost, Fire. Earthworm, dark to 2, weak to 2 things: Fire, Fighting. I mean, Oranguru, weak to 2 things: Bug, Dark. If you really want to run the damage negating berries, you could really cover for your very like few weaknesses that some of these people have on the squad. And I mean, again, you're surrounding them with a nasty sweeper demon right here, man. This is really disgusting. So let's hit the type chart real quick offensively, just to kind of whittle down what are the things that Garchomp is going to struggle with. So if we look at the offensive side of things, Dragon, obviously you can look at this column and just read it across, in case you aren't familiar with how this stuff works. The only thing we're going to struggle with hitting is going to be steel types, and then very much so fairy types. Now, as far as ground goes, you could say the same thing for this too. It's only got 3 weaknesses. Hitting into grass types, not very good. And then hitting into bug types, not very good. Who cares about that, to be real with y'all though? I mean, let's be real. And then flying types. It absolutely covers our weakness in that regard. We already talked about it though. I mean, we are rocking the, on Oranguru, the gravity. So if we saw a ton of flying types, if we saw like, you know, a bunch of ice types, boom, we go something like Pelipper, Bronzong. If we saw, like I said, a bunch of fairy types, we go Gengar. This team does a really good job at putting Garchomp on a pedestal and saying, that's our king, win the game for us. I think that's truly how it's going to go. And then our other sweeper, like, you know, really good special attacker right here, going to be Gengar. I feel like with the amount of weaknesses that we cover for Garchomp with this team, I feel like it could really come together and be something nice. But I do want to reiterate to you guys, I'm not sitting here saying that this, you know, team's going to win every single game. I'm not saying it's going to be OP in the meta or anything like that. This is just a cool little off-meta team that I think is going to be like fun to run. You know, it's very creative and has a lot of flexibility to it and a lot of ways to just make cool plays. You know, like skill swap, ally switch, freaking gravity, telepathy everywhere, earth eater, skill swapping the Earth Eater, having Levitate on Bronzong, going Trick Room into Speed Swap. I mean, there's so many things you've never even heard the words muttered on Pokemon probably. Yet, I see the viability personally and think that this can win games. It's just, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying it's going to win every game and it's the most brain dead, easy way to play or anything like that. But anyway, yeah, point of that tangent was, if we do things like, you know, gravity against like flying types, we only have 2 weaknesses at that point, and the only like major concern probably at that point is grass types. Everything else is going to get hit super effectively or you know, neutrally. And then, you know, bug technically too, but who cares about bug? Let's be real. But yeah, I mean, between that ground and dragon, if you are set up, I feel like that's neutral damage into a lot of the player base of Pokemon. And I don't think you're concerned about a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of white on the screen, and then there's a lot of green on the screen. There's not a whole lot of black, and if it is, it's something we can deal with. And if there's red, there's only like 2 of them on each of them. It's literally just grass, bug, and then, you know, steel and then immunity for fairies, which, again, we are trying to cover with Gengar. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all good stuff. Like always, try this 1 to 100 likes. And if you made it to the end of the video and you want to show your support that you made it to the end, put Garchomp in the comments. Sure, supports me all the way through. We didn't really talk about Pelipper much, but honestly, I don't think there's much to be said. Wide Guard, Tailwind, Weather Ball, Hurricane. You could run U-Turn if you would like as well. As far as the items go, I mean, it could get versatile as well, but I'm not really even solidified with the idea of running Pelipper yet either. There might be a couple of different ideas, but again, this team's a little bit rough drafty. You could consider a lot of different things. You could consider, again, Gardevoir with Telepathy, Levitate on whoever you think is a good fit, T-Tar if you wanted to have a little bit of a sand maneuver to this team, and if you wanted to run Sandveil with him, because I'm not gonna lie, Sandveil could be cool when put a substitute on it as well. You'll still have the evasion boost with your substitute up, and considering it's going to be hard to even hit your sub, that might be kind of interesting. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, it's up to you how you want to go about that. I'm just a little concerned about hitting T-Tar on our own team, and I didn't really want to flex the moveset because I really do like this setup idea, and then to still have 2 moves that we can kind of carefree just hit, you know? So anyway, that's the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. This might be my last one before the actual Game of Champions comes out. I'm recording this on the 5th. I'm probably either dropping it on the 5th or the 6th. We'll see. I might have another video potentially, but I don't want to force anything too hard if I don't really have like teams that I think are fun to build around. Or I might even do, when Champions comes out, more specific deep dives onto one mon specifically. I'm just preparing y'all for what you might see with the videos. I might be a volume uploader. I might really upload a lot of videos, and if you're not interested in every one of them, that's okay. I'm not expecting y'all to, like, you know, support if you're not interested in the vid. It's my job at the end of the day to like keep you interested in stuff like that. But you might see me do a lot more of like volume uploading and just do a ton of videos detailing one mon in specific and really going over their whole kit, what you want to do with them, because what I expect people will run into with Champions is they might have just some random, I don't know, let's say they have some random Gardevoir in their box, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it because they're not trying to spend a bunch of money on the game, or they don't have the VP yet to deal with it. So they're trying to make the most out of their Gardevoir that they can and not have to like retool their whole team and figure out what to do with them. I want to like maybe do deep dive videos on the type of roles that certain mons can fit into, and what you'd want to do with them as far as, like, you know, singles, doubles, VGC rules, whatever we see on the game format. And I'm going to try and be a chameleon and like adapt to what we see as well, because I do want to make some evergreen content as well. Or I don't know, even something like this. You could be like, you know, how to be running the Dozo Tatsugiri and then Palma having something like Revival Blessing. I don't know, it's just like random team builds, random deep dives with certain mons, just talking about how to get the best out of every one of them. So anyway, that's all for the vid. Appreciate y'all for watching, and appreciate the support that everybody's been giving as well. Anyway, that's all. Take it easy, man. Peace.